it's another day in the garden and we are just going to go ahead and get down to business. We're going to share with you more raised bed mixture combinations and whatever else we are getting done here at the garden farm, because there's always something going on, but the raised beds are the #1 thing that I know you guys are so excited about. So yesterday my goal was to get 4 done. I only got 2. I've been moving so slow this year. I don't know what it is. But you know what? Yesterday I did stop and take time to just really enjoy the process, but also just enjoy time with the kids in between. It was our first really nice day here in Wisconsin. So today I really need to focus. So I told Jason, you know what? Like, I still want to hang out with you and the girls, but there needs to be a time and place today because I gotta get these beds going. I gotta get them done so we can just start enjoying. Yesterday we shared with you the plantings of bed 1, which is the herb garden, and bed 2 with cauliflower and broccoli and all kinds of other goodies. And now we're moving on to bed 3. And guess what? I have no idea what I'm doing there yet, so you'll hear me in about a quick second. It'll feel like a quick second to you guys, but I'll come back with a nice little combination to share with you. Alright, so I've started designing, and over here I've got planted the tropic giant cabbage. So I know these are going to get really large, so I spaced them further than what I normally would plant our cabbages in a bed. And I figure that this one will get large but also grow off the end cap. That's kind of how we planted it last year in another raised bed, and it did just absolutely gorgeous. And last year then we also seeded some Mexican sour gherkins next to it, and they trailed down. We're going to do that again this year. But what we're adding in here are 2 more of the tropic giant cabbages, along with 1 back there. So it's kind of just, you know, like a square here. And we're leaving the center open because they get super duper large, so they'll kind of grow in towards that center. And then over here we're going to add the Mexican sour gherkin on each side. So you'll have these huge cabbages and then the sour gherkins just trailing off of the sides. And the Mexican sour gherkins are those veggies that you guys see that look like small little watermelons. That's what I'm talking about. As you can see right here, I mounded the soil a little bit. I like mounding them, especially when they're in these corners, because it can get where like the water kind of comes in here a little bit more wet. So when you mound them up, it kind of gets them so that way they're not just sitting in like a soaking wet spot. And so all I'm gonna do is go ahead and make a little hole there. So the hole's only about 1 inch deep. I'm gonna go ahead and place about 4 to 5 seeds in there. They usually say 2 to 3, but I like to do it a little bit more. That way it ensures that it's gonna work out for us. There. All right, so that area there is done. And now we have the rest of the bed. As you can see, I have a triangle pattern here formed in the dirt, and that is where I'm going to seed some sunflowers. So this is Earth Walker. They can get anywhere from 48 to 60 inches. And last year we did some of the big yellow mammoths in the raised beds, like right there. They're so tall and absolutely gorgeous. So we loved adding the height, and we're gonna add some height over here, but with more of an orange color this year. So I'm gonna start right at the peak of the triangle there and add my first little round of seeds. So I'm just gonna add little patches, and I'm gonna add about 4 seeds. They say 1 to 2 seeds, but I've never used this variety before, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add, you know, about 4 seeds in that space, and we'll see. Oh, 5 fell, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it. They say to keep them 12 inches apart, but we're not growing them in a field. We're growing them in here for tall height and foliage to fill in, so I'm gonna go half that and go about 6 inches apart. Actually, you know what? That's about 8 inches apart. All right, and I'm just gonna continue that along this side as well. And following that pattern right here, we did celery. We added the Bonariensis giant zinnias that we seeded, and we wanted to add some flowers on this side because once again, it's another end cap facing the house. So the zinnias always attract butterflies for us. And what we're gonna do then on the end cap here is we are gonna go ahead and seed some hybrid yellow summer squash. So as you can tell, I made 3 little holes here, and we're gonna place 3 seeds in each hole and then cover. And then those squash are gonna go ahead and they're gonna grow right off the edge of this raised bed and be gorgeous just even in the foliage. But I love yellow squash, that's my favorite. Now right in the middle of this sunflower pattern, I'm gonna go ahead and add a zucchini squash right in here. And there we go. And now I can go ahead and cover up these sunflowers. I kept them uncovered so that way I could really see where they were to really just kind of plant next to that. So this will fill in this whole space and it will grow off the side beautifully like all of our zucchinis do. I always plant at least one zucchini plant, but then the rest I go ahead and directly seed. That way you get some that is about 2 weeks earlier than you normally would if you were to just directly seed. So I did change my mind. I added a Verbena Bonariensis right in the center of all of the cabbages. It's a variety that won't push anything out or take over. It's just gonna fill in any little nook and cranny. It's a real airy feeling plant, so I think it'll actually do very well in the middle of those and be pretty. So now in this space, this is the last space I have to fill. I'm going to alternate snapdragons, the Liberty variety. I love them because they blossom for us all summer long. If you're in a really hot area and snapdragons don't do well for you, you could always just trade these out for like a Dreamland zinnia or more salvias. We like to add them to attract just fun nature to the garden. Plus it's beautiful and the snaps smell so sweet. We made sure to keep them spaced away from the celery over here. And that way the celery has enough room to grow outward on both sides, and then the flowers are right here to fill in. Well, we got those all planted in a row. And then here's that little mound of the Mexican sour gherkins. So we still have this odd little space left right in here. So I'm actually just gonna go ahead and seed a couple little seeds of a cucumber right next to it because we have another cucumber over here. The Mexican sour gherkins are a type of cucumber, so we're gonna go ahead and place another variety right here. And just one thing to remember about the Mexican sour gherkin is a lot of people seed start these before they put them into the garden, because when you directly sow them into the ground like we do, they don't produce until real late in the season. So if you want them earlier in the season, then I'd suggest seed starting them in the house and planting a plant. And this raised bed is all done. All right, moving on to the next bed. So what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna really utilize these posts. These posts here actually hold up our lights, so we have them on the outside corners of the entire gardening space, as you can see. But this year I'm going to utilize them as a natural trellis for some of our pole beans here. As they grow, I'm going to actually add like a chicken wire fencing just right here on the inside, so that way they can trail going up. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just seed a small little space here of just the beans. We got our seeds in, and I put in more than you would normally do. You want to just put in 1 to 2 per row, really, or per mound. But for us, we're gonna load it up so that way it can be nice and full as it trails up, and it'll be productive. Now that those beans are in on each side, over there too, we're going to go ahead and add a space right in here, pretty much next to where the beans are, but just right over here. And we're gonna go ahead and seed some cantaloupes here. This is Hannah's choice. And we're also gonna seed another mound right here, because then these are going to trail right off of the raised bed. This is how we grow all of our melons, is right off the higher raised beds, and they do so well. And it's really cool to see because we'll have like huge melons just sitting on off the raised bed. So it's really cool to see, and we do share all those types of photos on our Instagram, which is at Casey Lynn Lawrence, and you can see all kinds of ideas and gardening tips there. We're going to duplicate this on that end as well. But instead of the cantaloupe, we're gonna do watermelon, and we're gonna do the crimson sweet. I decided to add another patch right there. So it's kind of like a little triangle here. And so all the melons are gonna trail down while the beans will grow up. Okay, so here on the end cap, after we went ahead and seeded those melons. I then went ahead and added millet grass here, kind of in the center. It's the only thing that can get nice and tall and stand above all of that foliage of the melons, and yet not take over the melons. And the reason why we're adding the millet is because it's a bird attractor for us. So once it seeds out and gets a beautiful plume on top, all the birds come in and want to land on it. It's really fun to watch from inside the house. We did the same thing on the other side. And then behind that, we did some flowering kale. This is the crane red, so it's a cut flower variety, but it gets really nice and tall. So this will be a beautiful tall foliage right behind this millet grass. And then right behind that, we're gonna do the snapdragons, which will be a little bit shorter than that. So now we're going up from a high height, starting to lower down with the snapdragons and flowing over with nasturtium on each side. And we did the same thing on this side. So we're kind of mimicking those sides. Now in the center, we did 2 little circles of Dreamland zinnias. So those aren't gonna get too crazy huge. They only get about 16 inches tall at the very most. Usually they say 12 to 14 inches, but we had some last year get up to about 16 inches, and their blossoms are multicolored and beautiful. And then around those, we planted onions. So here's some white onions, and then over here we have some red onions. So as those beautiful onion foliages start peeking up and pointing out, you'll have these beautiful round areas of color poking through the middle. Well, I hope you guys are loving the raised box recipes so far. All right, so we are moving on to this bed, and there's gonna be a lot of seeds in here, so I'm just gonna share quickly how I'm laying them out, and then you can just follow the growth as we go. So as you can tell, I kind of did a triangle pattern without meeting the peak. So right where you see the little grooves of lines, that's where we're gonna put our Autumn Beauty sunflower seeds. And then in the center, we're gonna go ahead and seed some kale. This at least will then give the kale just a little break from the sun at certain points of the day, because this faces southwest over here. And that way, if they're getting shaded, they can still get some of that late afternoon sun that isn't as hot, and that'll help them thrive here. So I just went ahead and made little circles again in the soil, and then placed about 5 seeds per hole there. And each hole is about, I'd say, 10 inches apart. So on each corner there and over here, we're gonna have trailing up the posts the cypress vine. That way we're adding flowers going up this time. And then over on this end here, we're gonna go ahead and seed a little patch of beans right here. And now that I have those done and seeded, I just go ahead and cover them. And then over on this side of that sunflower seeded area, I'm going to go ahead and seed a zucchini squash right there. What's really cool is we started a zucchini plant over in this bed. So because it's already a plant, it's that much more ahead and will start producing before the other one. That's why it's nice to then just go ahead and get one seeded, so you kind of have them producing in intervals. So if you can tell, I create small little mounds of dirt, so that way it lifts the seed off of just laying flat underneath the dirt. And we're gonna go ahead and create a little hole like this, kind of like a volcano. We're gonna do the same over here. We're gonna do 2 little hills. I'm gonna go ahead and place 4 seeds per mound. There we go. We're just gonna cover them, bring them up nice. And I like to pat them. Well, we're ending the night with Jason filling the rest of the beds for me, and I really only have 2.5 beds left. So we'll share the rest of these in the next video.